Rory McIlroy is the second longest hitter on the entire PGA Tour in 2025. He hits the ball further than almost every professional golfer on the planet, and yet, he is the only major champion publicly standing in favor of a rule specifically designed to make the ball travel shorter distances. While nearly every prominent voice in professional golf lined up to attack the new regulations, McIlroy walked the other direction, alone, deliberate and fully aware of how unpopular his position was. Now, with the US Open at Shinnecock Hills just weeks away, that position has become one of the most discussed storylines in the sport. To understand why McIlroy's reaction to these rule changes carries so much weight, you first have to understand the scale of what professional golf is currently fighting over. There are two separate changes creating enormous friction across the sport. The first is the reduction in PGA Tour field sizes. The number of fully exempt playing cards has been cut from 125 down to 100, effectively removing guaranteed livelihoods from 25 touring professionals. The second is the golf ball rollback, which the USGA and R&A have mandated for elite competitions beginning in 2028, with implementation now potentially delayed to 2030, forcing players to use a ball that travels meaningfully shorter distances. The biggest hitters on tour are expected to lose between 13 and 15 yards of driving distance under the new regulations. The player reaction to both of these changes has been fierce, public, and consistent. Lucas Glover, a six-time PGA Tour winner, called the field size cuts terrible and said the tour was hiding behind pace of play to justify them. "They think we're stupid," Glover said. Matt Fitzpatrick, the 2022 US Open champion, publicly backed him, writing on social media that it was pathetic that pace of play is spoken about every year and nothing ever gets done. On the ball rollback specifically, Justin Thomas said the USGA had made selfish decisions and that the rollback was simply bad for the game of golf. Bryson DeChambeau went further, calling it the most atrocious thing that you could possibly do to the game of golf. These are not fringe opinions from anonymous players. These are major champions, the most prominent voices in professional golf, and they are nearly unanimous in their opposition. And then there is Rory McIlroy. In December 2023, while the rest of the locker room was erupting, McIlroy went on social media and posted his position directly. "I don't understand the anger about the golf ball rollback," he wrote. "It will make no difference whatsoever to the average golfer and puts golf back on a path of sustainability. It will also help bring back certain skills in the pro game that have been eradicated over the past 2 decades." In a room full of voices screaming the same thing, McIlroy stood up and said something completely different. At subsequent press conferences, he went further, drawing a firm philosophical line between recreational golf and elite play. He has always been clear that he does not want the governing bodies touching the average golfer. The game needs to remain fun and accessible. But for professionals competing at the highest level, he believes reform is necessary and overdue. His reasoning is rooted in what the modern golf ball has done to the skill demands of the professional game. McIlroy's argument is that the current ball has erased specific abilities that used to separate the genuinely great players from merely good ones. Precision shot shaping, long iron play, the ability to work the ball in both directions under pressure. These skills have been systematically diminished because raw distance and high launch, low spin ball flight now compensate for technical deficiencies. He believes the rollback will force precision and shot-making back to the center of elite competition, and that the best players will be more clearly identified as a result. "I think it will bring back some skills in the pro game that have been lost, and I actually think it will make the pro game more entertaining to watch," McIlroy told Sky Sports. "It's not going to just be this bomb and gouge that we see predominantly now at the top level of golf." Then McIlroy said the thing that lit the locker room on fire. He did not stop at defending the governing bodies. He redirected the criticism entirely, pointing the finger at his own colleagues and at the companies that sponsor many of them. His argument was that the governing bodies had actually offered a cleaner solution: bifurcation, where elite professionals and recreational golfers would simply play under different ball regulations. That option was blocked. "The governing bodies presented us with that option earlier this year," McIlroy wrote. "Elite pros and ball manufacturers think bifurcation would negatively affect their bottom lines when in reality, the game is already bifurcated. You think we play the same stuff you do?" They put pressure on the governing bodies to roll it back to a lesser degree for everyone. Bifurcation was the logical answer for everyone. But yet again in this game, money talks. That statement was blunt, confrontational, and it made McIlroy an even greater outsider on this issue inside the professional game. Here is where his critics push back hardest, and where the debate becomes genuinely layered. In 2025, Rory McIlroy ranked as the second longest hitter on the entire PGA Tour, behind only the South African Aldrich Potgieter. The argument his peers have made with real force is straightforward. If you reduce distance proportionally across the entire field, the player who was already furthest ahead in that category keeps most of his edge. A rollback of 13 to 15 yards does not flatten the distance hierarchy. It shrinks it slightly while preserving the advantage of the longest hitters. In other words, McIlroy supporting a rule that most benefits players with dominant distance advantages raises an obvious question, one that some of his peers have not been shy about voicing. Is this really about the sustainability of golf, or is it about competitive self-interest? Even Jack Nicklaus addressed this exact point. Speaking to reporters at the Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village, the greatest major champion in history weighed in on what the rollback would actually mean for someone like McIlroy. To the pro, maybe Rory, who is maybe as long as there is, might have maybe 12 to 14 yards. It might pull him back. It might be a benefit. Might keep him out of trouble. I don't know, Nicklaus said. I mean, it's insignificant. The only thing that's good about it is that it's actually reined in the game back a little bit. Coming from the man who has won 18 major championships and spent decades watching the professional game evolve, that observation carries significant weight. It does not accuse McIlroy of bad faith, but it does illustrate exactly why his position has become so personal and so contested within the locker room. Nicklaus also went further in diagnosing why so many professionals are publicly opposed to the rollback. Most of the reason why the guys will complain about the golf ball being brought back is because of the manufacturers, he said. And I mean, the manufacturer complains to a player and says, no, don't you tell them that you want that golf ball rolled back. Otherwise, you aren't going to be working for us. That framing aligns almost precisely with what McIlroy himself argued in his original social media statement, that financial relationships between players and equipment companies have distorted the public debate. But McIlroy's position has evolved in a direction that complicates the picture significantly, and it is the most important part of where he currently stands. He has already tested the proposed rollback ball. His conclusion, shared on the Friday Golf podcast, is that by the time the rule comes into force in 2028 or potentially 2030, the actual distance difference between the new ball and the current ball may be negligible. We're frustrated as players and as an industry because the lead times these equipment companies have been given to figure it out. By the time we play these balls in 2028, there's not going to be a difference. Or the difference is going to be so marginal that it's not going to make a difference, McIlroy said. His close friend and playing companion Shane Lowry, who plays a different brand of ball, reportedly tested the rollback version and noticed no difference at all. McIlroy's frustration is not with the concept of the rollback. It is with the execution. The equipment manufacturers have been handed years of lead time, and they have the financial resources and research infrastructure to engineer their way around almost any new regulation. The ball is a good start, but these equipment manufacturers are so good and have so many resources that by the time we play this thing in 2028, there's just not going to be a difference between what we have now and what we might have in 3 years' time, he said. His broader argument is that the governing bodies cannot successfully solve the distance problem by targeting only the ball. Driver head sizes, club face technology, shaft performance, all of it needs to be regulated simultaneously and aggressively if the intended outcome is going to be achieved. The ball rollback in isolation will not be enough. This creates a defining contradiction in McIlroy's position. He is simultaneously the most prominent advocate for what the rollback is trying to achieve, and the most credible critic of whether it will actually achieve it. He supports the destination completely. He doubts the map entirely. That nuance separates him from both the players who oppose the rollback on principle and the governing bodies who are defending it as sufficient. He is arguing that they are right to try and failing to execute, a position that satisfies almost nobody but happens to be grounded in first-hand testing and detailed knowledge of how the equipment industry operates. All of this context arrives at Shinnecock Hills in June 2026, where McIlroy is one of the most compelling figures in the entire U.S. Open field. He completed the career Grand Slam at the 2025 Masters, becoming only the 6th player in history to win all 4 major championships. He then defended that Masters title in 2026, becoming a 6-time major champion, a total that ties him with Nick Faldo, Lee Trevino, and Phil Mickelson. The pursuit that defined and consumed over a decade of his career is finished. He no longer carries the weight of the Grand Slam question onto any major championship course. The U.S. Open specifically has been a complicated relationship. His only title came in 2011 at Congressional, where he was so dominant that he won by 8 shots and broke the tournament scoring record. He was 21 years old and led from the first hole on Thursday to the final putt on Sunday. That performance remains one of the most commanding individual displays in major championship history. What followed over the next decade was a long series of near misses and heartbreaks at the U.S. Open, culminating in a runner-up finish at the 2024 U.S. Open at Pinehurst, where he lost by a single shot to Bryson DeChambeau in a result that stayed with him for months. He arrives at Shinnecock, having already visited the course for a scouting trip on Monday before the Memorial Tournament, playing alongside Scottie Scheffler. His assessment was direct. Shinnecock looks good. The fairways are very generous. They're more generous than they were in 2018, McIlroy said. He also issued a clear warning regarding the greens, which were already running at 11 to 11-2 on the Stittmeter during his visit. "I really don't think they need to get much faster," he said. "I think if they can keep them at that green speed, they can get them firm, and they can use the hole locations that they want to use without having some of the struggles that they have had the last couple of U.S. Opens." When Brooks Koepka won Shinnecock the last time the U.S. Open was held there in 2018, the winning score was 1 over par. This is a golf course that punishes every mistake and rewards every decision made correctly from the tee. McIlroy's game maps well onto what Shinnecock demands. It is a windswept, links-influenced examination that rewards creativity, ball flight control, and the ability to manage a golf ball through difficult lies and unpredictable conditions. His driving accuracy, combined with his distance, gives him a significant advantage at a course where position off the tee determines everything. Scheffler, the world number 1, arrives chasing his own career Grand Slam, needing only a U.S. Open title to join McIlroy in that exclusive group. The storylines surrounding this particular major championship are dense and legitimate. McIlroy enters the 2026 U.S. Open in strong form. He won 2 PGA Tour events in 2025 alongside the Masters. His 2026 season has been building toward the major championships without obvious weakness in any area of his game. He is driving it well. His short game carried him through difficult days at Augusta, and the mental freedom that came with completing the Grand Slam has visibly changed the way he competes under pressure. He no longer needs this title to complete anything. What he needs it for is simpler. He is Rory McIlroy, and Rory McIlroy competes to win. He stood completely alone on the rule changes when it was the least popular position any golfer could take. He blamed his colleagues publicly. He accused the equipment industry of controlling the conversation with money. And then he said the rule he championed will probably fail because the people he blamed found a way around it. That is not a comfortable position to hold. It is, however, a precise and honest one. And if he walks off the 18th green at Shinnecock Hills as the 2026 U.S. Open champion, the most outspoken voice in professional golf will have made his point in the only language the sport ultimately respects.